All right, hello everybody. Thank you so much for joining me today. My name is Quinn and I'm going to be your cookie guide with the messy cookie. So let's dig in, let's unbox our cookie kits. So first things first, to get started, we're going to get 2 cups of water. They can be about halfway full. I'll dig into the mystery of why we have 2 cups in a little bit. And then we're also going to grab some paper towels just to protect our surface area. Getting into our cookie kit, we have 5 cookies with us. First, we have our practice cookie. So this is going to end up being your abstract masterpiece, essentially. We're going to practice some of the techniques on this little guy. Then we have our snow globe cookie, right? Which ultimately ends up looking like this piece here. We have a bear, which we're going to design today. We're going to do this design today. And then we also have our octagon piece, which is going to be 2 little birch trees with some cardinals. And then we also have a freebie bear. So this one, you can do basically whatever design you want, but we're gonna do this design. Just throw a little scarf on him and make a little polar bear scene. All right, so those are our cookies. All right, so let's take a look at the tools that we have today. So first we have our brushes. We have a flat brush here and our small rounded pointy brush. We have a sponge, which is going to be great for some textures and skies. And then we have our palette for mixing our colors. And then last but not least, we have our paints, right, which are labeled with the colors on the top of each. So let's go ahead and open these up. I recommend doing the white one last because it's a little bit more liquidy and it might spill a little bit. So we're just going to pop these open. Perfect. All right, let's dive into our practice cookie, this little round guy here. All right, we're gonna grab our rounded brush and we're going to start off with the dry brush technique. So we're gonna take our dry brush, it's pretty self-explanatory. We're gonna dive into a color, whatever you're feeling today. I'm gonna go for the pink. And you're just gonna get a little bit of that pigment right on the brush, right? And then we're gonna draw a line straight down the center of the cookie. And voila, there you have your first mark. So this one you can kind of see, we have really clean edges, which is really nice. And this is kind of one of the best parts about using the dry brush technique, because it's great for some detail work, because you get really clean edges, like I said. And now I'm gonna explain the mystery of the 2 cups. So one is gonna be our dirty water. So let's go ahead and wash that brush off right in that cup. Awesome. And then the second cup we're gonna use for painting, because this is a watercolor painting, right? So now we're gonna do a technique called wet brush technique. So again, pretty self-explanatory. We're going to grab a little bit of our pigment that we chose. Again, I'm using pink, but you can use whatever color you want. We're gonna put that in our palette, and then we're gonna wash our brush off again, so we have a clean brush. And we're gonna load some clean water into that pigment. So this is gonna dilute the color a little bit to make it a little bit lighter. You can put a little bit more water in there if you want. Awesome. All right, so now you can kind of see, we're gonna get our practice cookie and we're gonna make some marks. And you can just kind of experiment here, right? You can play around with what type of marks you're making. But it's gonna be much lighter than that dry brush technique, which is a really vivid, sharp line. And the wet brush is much lighter and a little bit looser looking, right? A little more painterly. Awesome. Now we're gonna wash off our brush again. And this time we're gonna do a technique called wet on wet. So we're gonna get a bunch of that clean water right onto our clean brush, and we're gonna paint that water right on our cookie. So it doesn't look like much, but really I'm just putting a layer of water all over that right side of the cookie. Awesome. And now I'm gonna grab some of the pigment from my palette, and I'm just gonna dab it onto the cookie. And you can see how it disperses, right? Immediately you get this really cool effect. You can kind of like swirl it around. So you get a much more organic looking, kind of free-flowing look with the wet on wet technique. And awesome, there you go. You have your first abstract / practice cookie. So this one's all ready for snacking for the rest of the session. All right, I'm gonna move these little guys out of the way and we're gonna get started on our first official cookie. We're gonna go for the snow globe. All right. So again, let's wash that brush off. This is gonna be the wide brush. Make sure it's nice and clean. And we're gonna dab a little bit of the black onto our palette. You just need a little bit because we're gonna go for a gray, right? So we have a little bit of the black on our palette, and then, so I'm gonna put a little bit more. And then we're gonna wash that brush off into the dirty cup. And then we're gonna go for that clean water because this is gonna dilute the black and turn it into a nice gray. Grab some more of that water. Awesome. So now I have a really watered down black. And now we're gonna paint the base. So instead of just doing a straight line across, I'm gonna do a little bit of a curved line to kind of give that illusion of the globe, right? So I'm just gonna go down and around. You might have to paint a little bit over a little bit. There we go. All right, and just spread that paint around and then you get your nice gray base. Awesome. Perfect. All right, we have our gray base to our snow globe. And now we're gonna go for the sky, right? So you can kind of see here, we have a nice little bluish sky with 2 trees and a cabin. I'll leave that there so you guys can see what it's gonna look like in the future. All right, we're gonna make sure that brush is nice and clean. And we're gonna get a little bit of blue and put that on our palette. And again, wash that brush off. Then we're gonna get some of that clean water on our brush, mix that in with the blue pigment. So the pure pigment comes out really vivid and dark. And though that can be really nice for like the details, for the light snowy skies, we want something a little bit more lighter and fluid. So that's why we're adding a bunch of water to this blue. All right. And now what we're gonna do is we're gonna get that horizon line that you see. So we're gonna leave the white snowy ground blank, and we're just gonna do a line across the snow globe. And it's okay if it's not perfect because no horizon line is perfectly straight, you know. There could be hills and stuff in the distance. And then we're just gonna paint some of this blue across the sky. Awesome. You can just make marks across the sky. Great. And you can wash that brush off, and then if you want, you can grab your sponge, make sure that sponge is clean, and then you can just dab the blue pigment right on your cookie, and you can kind of turn it into like, it turns into a cloudy, wintry scene. Awesome. It really makes a nice pastel blue, and you kind of can see like the wind blowing the snow around. Beautiful. All right, there you have your background. And now we're gonna add some of the details of the cabin and the trees. So now we're gonna grab that pointed rounded brush. We're gonna make sure it's clean, which it should be because we haven't used it yet. And we're gonna start with the cabin here. So for making that brown, you'll notice that we don't have brown in our palette, and that is a-okay because we can actually make a brown. So you wanna grab a little bit of the red and put that on your palette. Wash that brush off. And then you're gonna grab some green and mix it in with the red. And so those two colors are actually opposites on the color wheel. So they cancel each other out and end up making a nice muted brown color. I'm gonna add a little bit more red. And you can kind of play around with the proportions of red and green. And you can see, obviously it's really dark right now on the palette. I'm going to wash my brush off, add a little bit of water in there, and you can see it ends up becoming a little bit lighter, so you can see more of the type of brown that you have. Perfect. And if you really want to test your color before it goes on right on your cookie, you can just make a little mark on your paper towel, and that's a pretty good brown, so I'm going to go with that one. All right. So I'm going to dab the blue a little bit more to make sure it's dry. All right, for making the cabin, it looks a little complicated, but actually if we just take these little steps, it's actually pretty easy. All right, so we're going to start with 2 little lines in the center of your cookie. Just like that. And then we're going to do an upside down V that connects those 2 lines. We're just going to do one there. And one more coming down, just like that. Awesome. All right, and now to get that log cabin effect, we're just going to do some lines, some horizontal lines moving up our little cabin. So you can start with one on the bottom. And just go up the little cabin, just like that. Awesome, and then I'm actually gonna go ahead and fill in that roof area. Perfect. And then if anyone's feeling adventurous, feel free to add whatever details you want to your little cabin. I'm gonna throw in a little chimney to the side. Awesome. If you want to put a door on there, feel free, or like, I don't know, a window or whatever you're feeling. Once we have our little cabin, we're gonna do our trees to the side. So we're gonna, again, this is gonna be the dry brush technique, so we get more of that like sharper detail for those trees, right? So we're gonna go right into the green pigment. Feel free to put it on your palette too if you want, just to make sure you don't have globs on your brush. You can kind of move it around on your palette. Perfect. All right, and then we're just gonna do these little like dashes swoops, I guess, coming down from the center of the tree and moving out to kind of form those branches. And then we're going to repeat that on the other side to give that tree, get that tree effect. Awesome. All right, there's one tree. Now we're going to add another tree to the other side of the house. Again, starting in the center of the tree and doing little swoops going out. Awesome. And now the fun thing about these designs is they're all like in nature, right? So no tree looks the same. Nothing in nature is exactly a straight line or whatever. So whatever you end up doing is gonna be great. And they all turn into delicious cookies at the end. So it's a win-win situation. All right. Perfect. Now we have our 2 little trees. We're gonna rinse that brush off really well because we had a bunch of that green paint on there. And dry that brush off. And now we're gonna throw some little stumps on there, right? That's gonna be our final touch for these trees. One little stump there. All right, and those are our little trees. Perfect. And now this is my personal favorite part of the snow globe. It's gonna be the snow, because what is a snow globe without the snow, right? All right, we're gonna get our flat brush again, and we're gonna make sure this one's really clean because we're gonna use some of the white paint. We're gonna load some of that white paint onto our brush, right? So we have a bunch there, and we're gonna use it to kind of spray this paint onto the cookie, all right? So we're gonna hold our paintbrush above the piece, and we're gonna pull the bristles back with our thumb and have it directed at the cookie, and you're gonna let them loose. And you might need to get some more white paint onto your brush. That's totally fine. You can keep on going at it. Yeah. You end up getting this really fun, wintry, like, frosted scene now. Like you just shook your snow globe, right? Personally, I say more snow the better, right? I think that looks super fun. And of course, it's all over my hand, but you know, we're called the messy cookie for a reason. All right, and now this is truly the final touch with this cookie. We're gonna do that little glare on the edge of the globe to really give that snow globe effect. All right, so make sure your pointed brush is clean. We're gonna grab some of that white paint, and we're gonna do like basically a semicolon at the top part of your globe. So you're gonna do a dot, and then you're gonna do a dash. Gorgeous, all right. There is your first cookie. So congratulations, everybody. You have your first masterpiece, and it looks beautiful. All right, we're gonna put that one to the side. And now on to cookie 2, which is my personal favorite. We got this gorgeous little like nighttime winter scene on a bear. I think it is so beautiful. All right, so we're gonna grab our blank bear, and we're gonna use a lot of the techniques that we just learned with the first cookie. So we're gonna get our flat brush again. We're gonna make sure it's nice and clean. And since this is a nighttime scene, we're gonna go for a darker blue. So I already have some of that black on my palette. I'm just gonna add a little bit of blue to that. So you're gonna mix black and blue with some water on your palette. You're gonna get a nice dark blue from that. Put a little bit more black, I think. And again, if you want to test it out on your piece of paper, feel free, your paper towel. All right, so again, we're gonna go for that horizon line, right? And it can be as curved as you want. I think I'm gonna do just like that. Awesome. And now from here, you can just do some dashes, like just some marks coming in. Because we're gonna end up, this is gonna look kind of like a sunset. So we're just getting some pigment on there so we can mix it. So clean that brush off really well once you have some of these dark blue marks. Now we're gonna throw some pink in there. And this is really what's gonna make that like really sunset look. I'm gonna get a little bit of my pink pigment, put that in my palette. I'm gonna get a little bit of the clean water. So you have that nice watered down pink. And now I'm gonna bring that in too. Yeah. And see those beautiful purples forming? Yeah, you can just kind of have fun with it and mix those colors. Kind of fill in those white spaces that are around the dark blue. You can kind of bring some of that blue up from the horizon line that you made. Awesome. And now if you really want to have some fun, you can grab that sponge and kind of move that paint around. You can almost make it look like the Northern Lights a little bit, right? Great. All right, once you're satisfied with your sunset tones on your bear, we're gonna move on to some trees. So again, really similar to what we did in the snow globe, we're gonna grab our pointed brush. We're gonna make sure it's clean. And now we're gonna make a dark green. So just like the dark blue, we're gonna use green but add a little bit of black to it. So I put a little green on in my palette. I'm going to grab a little bit of black. I'm going to grab a little bit more green, I think. And I'm going to clean that brush off before I put it in the clean water. And I'm going to throw a little bit of the clean water into that color. Nice. All right, now we're going to go for these little trees. So I'm going to do one close to the front paw or front leg real quick. Again, using the swooping motions going down. You get these beautiful little trees. And I'm going to do one towards the back leg as well. And with this piece or this cookie, you can kind of play around with the scale, right? You could do smaller trees and bigger trees. They can kind of go off into the distance. I'm gonna do this little guy in the background. So again, you can really play around with it because these are all nature scenes and nature varies. So whatever you're feeling in your heart, you can paint. All right, and then we're gonna add some of those little stumps. So you can go back onto your palette and grab some of that brown and put little stumps on those guys. Amazing. All right. Now I have my personal favorite part of this little cookie. I'll show you in the sample. We have little snow, like tracks in the snow walking off into the distance, right? You can just kind of imagine what animal made those. I'm thinking a bear, right? Since it's on a bear. And now for those, we're just gonna make some gray again, which you might have on your palette. I think I turned mine into a dark blue, so I'm gonna make a new gray. I'm just gonna use a little bit of that blue, put it on my, or the gray, or the black, I'm sorry. Put a little bit of black on your palette. Wash off that brush. Get some more of that clean water, and we're gonna make it into a gray. Awesome. All right, now I'm gonna have these little tracks going up and off into the distance. So they're just gonna be alternating little dashes or dots, whatever you're feeling. Whatever feels easier. And then a little pro tip, if you really wanna make it look like it's going off in the distance, have them get smaller the further you get towards the horizon line. At the end, you can even just do like little dots, right? And there you go. Those are your snow tracks. All right, our last final step to this beautiful piece is some more snow, or they can be stars, whatever you wish, snow or stars or both. So we're gonna go back and get our flat brush. Make sure it's super clean this time because we're gonna get some of that white paint on there. Awesome, and now we're gonna load that white paint onto our brush. So we have a whole bunch there. And again, we're gonna pull the bristles back with our thumb, point it down at our cookie, and let them loose. Look at that, that's so awesome. All right, we're gonna keep on doing this until we're happy with it. So cool. All right, now we're gonna add a little moon in there. So we're gonna get a little bit more of that white paint, and I'm just gonna put a moon up towards the neck, I think, of the bear. And it might mix a little bit with the pink, but that's okay. Gorgeous. All right, that is your second cookie. Congratulations. I'm sure it looks stunning. And yeah, my personal favorite. I think it's so cute. All right, on to our third cookie. We have our beautiful birch trees with our little cardinals. I think it is such a stunning little wintry scene. All right, we're gonna get our octagon cookie. And we are going to start by making sure our brush is super clean again. So wash it off in that dirty water. Look how, you can see how dirty my water already is. Like, this is why we use have clean water for painting and dirty water for cleaning. All right. So make sure that brush is all clean. And now to make this light blue, we're gonna mix blue and white. So it's gonna make a really nice pastel color. So I'm gonna take a little bit of that blue pigment. I'm gonna put it on my palette. And I'm gonna clean off that brush really well. And dry that off. And I'm gonna put some of the white paint in there with the blue. See how it becomes like a really opaque blue. I'm gonna put a little bit more of the white in there. Yeah, I'd recommend washing off your brush before you dip it back in the white. All right, so your blue should look something like that. Awesome. All right, now we're gonna get our cookie, and we're just gonna start by putting 2 lines down the middle of the cookie. Awesome, just like that. And then we're gonna add 2 more lines, each on the outside. So we're gonna do 1 line there, and then we're gonna do 1 more line right there. So you should have 4 lines total. And again, these do not have to be perfectly straight lines, because what tree is perfectly straight? You can even make your tree like a funky shape if you want. Again, whatever you're feeling for trees today. And now we're gonna start filling in between these lines, right? So we're gonna start, the easiest way to do this is start on the one side and to fill in that space. Awesome. Then we're gonna get some more of that blue. And now we're gonna fill in that the center space. Awesome, and now you can see the trees are slowly forming, right? And last but not least, we're gonna fill in that final space to the right. Perfect, all right, we're getting close. You can see the trees slowly forming. All right, now to add some detail, we're gonna get our little pointed brush. We're gonna make sure it's clean. And we're gonna grab some of the black paint. Gonna get a little bit on our brush. And now we're gonna add some outlines, kind of alternating down the tree, right? So we're gonna start up here. I'm just gonna do some lines. Maybe like 3, right? And this kind of gives it like an organic, natural look, right? It's not super outlined, right? We're giving it a little bit more of a painterly look today. And we're gonna do the same thing on the other tree. And again, no worries if your lines are a little squiggly. Again, that just adds to the natural quality of your birch trees. All right, and now we're gonna go back into the black, and we're gonna add some of that texture, that really like notable texture with birch trees, right? They have that really papery, beautiful papery bark. So we're gonna add some little dashes just coming in from the side. So I'm gonna start at the top. And we're just gonna do like a couple little, maybe like 2 or 3 lines. You can even do more if you want. And we're gonna alternate sides, right? And we're just gonna come down the cookie. And the more varied the distance and varied your lines, the more natural it'll look. So it does not have to be perfect. And then we're gonna do the same thing for the other tree. We're really Bob Rossing it up, right? Happy little trees. All right, perfect. Perfect. And now the final touch of these trees is they need to have little branches. Little branches for the cardinals to sit on. All right, so with these, we're just gonna do little lines emerging from the trees and throw on some little twigs too. Make it look a little bit more natural. Perfect. And yeah, you can honestly put on as many little branches as you want. You can have them looking however branch-like you want to. Really have fun with these little trees. I'm just kind of going down and alternating sides. Throw on these little branches. And remember, you want to have enough space for your little birds to sit on. So some of these branches I'm making much longer than the other ones, just to make sure there's room. Awesome. There are our little branches. Our trees look perfectly ready to have some birds sitting on there. All right, so our cardinals, they look complicated, but actually we're gonna simplify them into just 3 little steps. So I promise they're gonna be actually much easier than they look. This is what the final cookie looks like. All right, we're gonna make sure our brush is super clean. And we're gonna go into the red. And you could honestly go directly into the pigment because we want these birds to be sharp. We wanna make sure they're crystal clear there, sitting in their trees. All right, so the first bird I'm gonna have them sitting on this branch looking outwards. So I'm just gonna do a little diagonal mark down, just like that. All right, and our second step is we're gonna add a little belly, and that's just gonna be a half circle right in the middle of that mark. Awesome. And now the final step is we're just gonna connect that top part to the belly. And now it just needs a beak because it almost looks like a bird, but not quite. So we're gonna wash our brush off, get a little bit of black, put a little beak on there. Perfect. There you have your first little cardinal sitting in his tree. Amazing. All right, we're gonna add another little cardinal on there just so he has some company. Awesome. I'm gonna put him in this tree over here. This one's also gonna be looking outwards. So we're gonna do a dash. You see how it kind of comes down past the branch? That's gonna be the bird's little tail. So once we have our dash, we're gonna add that belly about halfway up to that half circle. And then we're gonna connect those two. We're gonna connect the top of that mark to the semicircle that we just put on there. And again, if you kind of mess it up, don't worry. Birds come in all shapes and sizes. All right. Final touch is the beak. We're gonna wash that brush off again. And we're gonna grab some of our black paint. We're gonna put a little beak on there. Perfect. All right, we have our 2 little cardinals sitting in their tree on a beautiful wintry day. And then if you have more of the white paint left, we can throw a little bit more of that snow on there. So again, make sure that flat brush is completely clean. Load it up with white paint. Hover it over your cookie. Pull the bristles back, and then let them loose. Awesome. Really adds that like amazing final touch to these cookies. Really gives it that wintry wonderland look. The messy cookie is based in Maine, so we get plenty of snow. So that's why all these are so snowy. That's what we're familiar with, right? Awesome. There you have your gorgeous little birch tree scene. And now we have our final cookie of the night. We have our freebie bear, which again, you're welcome to paint this bear however you wish, but we have a design if you'd like some guidance, we have this little guy here, our cozy little winter bear. So for this little guy, we're gonna start with a scarf, just to get that scarf on him first, because he's really cold. And for this one, feel free to pick whatever colors you want for the scarf, right? I'm gonna go for a blue and green scarf, I think. I'm gonna get some of that blue. And I'm just gonna do 2 lines going up his neck, up and around his neck. And then I'm gonna bring 2 lines coming down like this to bring that little swoop, that little other part of the scarf coming around. And then you can connect them at the bottom there. Awesome, so now you have the shape of the scarf, right? Now you can make your scarf striped, you could have it with polka dots, you could do a solid color, whatever you're feeling. I might make mine a blue scarf with some green dots, because why not? I'm gonna make it a pretty dark blue. So I didn't add much water to this paint, so you can see it's a much deeper color. So the more water you add, the more pastel or light your color gets. You know what, I'm feeling the blue scarf. I might just leave it blue, but I will add, I'm gonna wash that brush off, and I'm gonna add some green fringe at the end because it needs a little fringe. So I'm gonna dip my brush right into the green paint. And in order for, like, you see how there's a glob of paint there? I'm gonna put it on the paper towel a little bit, just brush it off, just so we have a cleaner mark on our cookie. And I'm just gonna add some green fringe. Perfect. All right, time to wash that off. And now I think I'm gonna go for a gray bear for this one. So I'm going to make sure my brush is clean and then get some of the black pigment. And we're gonna go around the edge of the bear and make him look really furry and fluffy, right? So to do that, we're gonna use that the dry brush technique, so we have clean lines. And we're just gonna do some of that like furry dashes. And they can be kind of like all over the place, right? You don't want them like in perfect little, like a perfect order. You want it to look kind of natural and furry and fuzzy and kind of go with the contour of the bear. See his little tail there? Yeah, you can just go all around your bear with those little marks. Maybe this was the bear that was walking around in our other scene, making those little footprints in the snow. And now for the head, I'm going to not do quite as many of those furry marks. I'm just going to kind of outline it. Look at that bear, so cute. Already it's like really taking shape, right? And what's nice with this is the shape of the cookie is already the bear outline. So you really just have to follow the shape of the cookie and you'll get a really cute bear. I'm gonna add some little more fur marks to that neck. Awesome. All right, then we're gonna wash that brush off. And we're gonna go back into a watery gray. So we wanna load our palette with some water, put a little bit of the black paint in there and make a nice gray. Make it really watery too. So you can load that really watery gray onto your brush, and then you can just pull from the outskirts of the bear inwards. So you're kind of pulling some of that pigment that you already put down for those furry marks, and you're pulling it into the rest of your bear to kind of fill in the body. That's one of the nice things about watercolors. It's really playing around with the interaction of water and the paint. So you can really pull it around and turn it into whatever your vision is. See how that's kind of forming a really furry looking bear? I'm gonna make some more of that gray pigment. I'm gonna leave the outline or the outside of the bear a little bit darker than the inside, just to give it a little illusion of like shape, a little bit of shading for you. See that? Awesome. Again, just pulling that pigment in from the sides, creating a little bear. So cute. All right, now for the face, we're just gonna continue doing what we're doing, pulling in some of those pigments. I'm really just using that watery gray to like mix around with the edges and pull it in. There you go. Now the last thing he needs is his little smiley face and his other ear. And then you have accomplished all of your cookies, and they're gonna be so delicious. All right. So just to make sure our face does not like get too watery with the pigment that's on the face, we're just gonna dry it off a little bit. All right. Now we're gonna use our pointed brush, and we're gonna go right into the black pigment, and we're gonna add a little eye. Just like that. And then we're gonna add a little ear. And if you want, you can throw on a little smile and maybe a little nose. Awesome. All right, and there you have your final cookie. I mean, how fun was that, right? We have our bear, we have our beautiful little wintry scene of birches with cardinals, we have our snow globe, we have our beautiful another bear scene with the tracks leading off in the distance. So cute. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and for making these beautiful cookies with us. I hope you had an amazing time. Please remember, if you would like to share your beautiful pieces, tag us on Instagram and Facebook at the.messy.cookie. Also, we are launching a cookie painting subscription, and everyone who tags us in a piece or in a picture will be entered to win a free month. So that's an exciting little tidbit there. So yeah, thank you again so much. I hope you had such a wonderful time. Have a nice evening. Bye.